So I would like to introduce our keynote speaker today. This is Dr. Blanche Wiesen, who is a distinguished professor of history here at John Jay College and at the City University of New York Graduate Center, which is the doctoral degree granting institution of CUNY. In addition to that, she's a historian, a journalist, a broadcaster, and an author, not to mention an activist. She was the editor of Crystal Eastman on Women in Revolution in 1978, and in 1981 wrote The Declassified Eisenhower, A Divided Legacy of Peace and Political Warfare. And through her involvement in researching this book, was a co-founder of the Fund for Open Information and Accountability, which I believe she's going to talk about today. You may also know her as the author of the first 2 volumes, with a promised third on the way, of Eleanor Roosevelt biography. Volume 1 was 92, Volume 2, 99, is that right? Volume 3 is what year? Forthcoming. She was a syndicated columnist for many years and also hosted a Pacifica radio show in 2 different incarnations, one called Activists and Agitators, and then Women in the World following that. So I'd like to welcome, giving her talk, Freedom of Information is Not Treason, an historical journey from the declassified Eisenhower to WikiLeaks, Dr. Blanche Wiesen.
I'm so really profoundly moved to be here today with all of you, and my partner Claire Koss and my old pals Maureen Beasley. I want to thank Terry Luke, Kevin Lerner, Lisa Burns, now we know Elliot King, for doing this. And welcome to our new building, long in the making. I am the oldest member of that is to say, the longest serving member of this faculty, and we've been working on this building for almost 20 years, our president, Jerry Lynch, and started it, and here it is. It's really quite beautiful, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you invited me. And I have to say, when I agreed to do this, I didn't realize what an incredible journey I was going to go back to, because I haven't really been thinking about the declassified Eisenhower for a while. When I finished Eisenhower, it took me 10 years to do this book, which I'd love to talk about if you have questions later. The reason it took me so long was that everything I wanted to see was classified. And I like to say my life was an accident, because I started out in life an athlete, a gymnast, and all I cared about was sports, and I had an accident at a big inner city varsity meet. A boy put a barbell at the end of a mat as I came out of a triple flip, and I broke all the muscles and ligaments in my back. That was the end of my life, I thought. And so I had to major in something else. So I majored in history, anthropology, every course I took I majored. And then I went to Johns Hopkins University, where I became a military historian. But the war in Vietnam started, and we thought that was stupid. So we founded, folks at Hopkins and in the State Department, founded something called the Conference on Peace History, and which is now the Peace History Society. It's still active. And we became activists at Hopkins, as students there. And then I had a column. And in 1972, the LA Times published a column that I wrote thinking Eisenhower was absolutely one of the best presidents we ever had. He warned us about the military-industrial complex. And I wrote a column saying that all real liberals and conservatives should vote for George McGovern, the real heir to Eisenhower's foreign policy. And Sam Vaughan, the president of Doubleday, called me up and said, "Would you like to do a book on Eisenhower?" And I said, "No, but call my agent." And I hung up. And my agent said, "Listen, kid, you don't hang up on the president of Doubleday." So I had dinner with Sam Vaughan, and I agreed to go to Abilene, Kansas, to write a book on Eisenhower. And I wanted to see some particular things. I wanted mostly to see about Guatemala, because I had friends in Central America who always talked about the overthrow of Jacobo Arbenz Guzman in 1954. But everything I wanted to see was classified, was secret, so that I would ask for various topics, and a tray would come out, and the boxes would come out, and in the boxes there'd be nothing but a pink slip saying everything that should be in this box or could be in this box was secret and classified, and you can't see it. And so I always say never go anywhere without your gang. That's very controversial here at John Jay. But I say in my opinion. And my students who used to wear, police officers in the beginning, and they wore guns to class. I would say in my opinion whenever I said anything controversial, and here I am, almost 50 years later. So it's okay. I came back and I said to a whole bunch of folks, what is going on here? Everything we want is secret. There was something called the Freedom of Information Act in 1966, and this was 1973. And so we started to have some meetings, and we worked on what became, and I really want to thank the memory of Bill Preston and my colleague Jerry Markowitz. We founded something called the Fund for Open Information and Accountability, FOIA Inc. It was a group of historians, journalists, and attorneys, and we began to sue the government for the COINTELPRO papers, which we got declassified. And we sued for the Guatemalan papers, and we did get them declassified. Ultimately, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of documents were declassified. And we also got some Iranian papers declassified, when and where we enter this very bitter moment with the overthrow of Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953. And of course, all of these documents and all of these facts changed my opinion of Eisenhower, the greatest president who ever lived. And so I wrote a book called The Declassified Eisenhower, A Divided Legacy of Peace and Political Warfare. Three things that are really important at this moment came out of FOIA Inc. The release of so many important papers, the FBI files against so many individuals. Eleanor Roosevelt's FBI file is one of the wonders of the world. John Edgar Hoover followed her everywhere, and Joe Lash, and Truda Lash, who was then Gertrude von Adam Wenzel Pratt Lash. The story of Volume 3, you'll have to wait. Eleanor Roosevelt's file goes on for literally 3,000 and more pages. It's really amazing. And in terms of what's un-American in John Edgar Hoover's Fantasyland was the biggest section is everything she said about racial justice. And let me just back up a little bit. In addition to COINTELPRO and the FBI files and the State Department files and the CIA files, in the Reagan administration, all the Guatemalan papers were reclassified, all of them. And after Sister Diana Ortiz put in her Freedom of Information Act, which is still, to the best of my knowledge, pending, the historians, the AHA and the OAH, and the national security groups put in our amicus file with Sister Diana Ortiz to get the Guatemala papers re-declassified, which, I don't know, it makes this book a WikiLeaks book, right? I mean, so here we are in the year 2012, almost 40 years after so many documents got declassified. And we have